Okay, I'm Senator Creed Deeds, represent the 11th Senate District. I live in Charlottesville. This is one of four virtual regional hearings on the state budget being held across the Commonwealth today by the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee and the House Appropriations Committee. Each year, the committees are required by law to hold a series of public hearings on the governor's proposed budget to give all of you, the citizens of the Commonwealth, the opportunity to comment on specific issues of concern to you. Today is your opportunity to talk, and our job as legislators is to listen. Let's take a moment before we begin to have the other legislators who are on the call with us today introduce themselves. Staff will call out your name, and then you may state your name and the district you represent. And I would ask staff to get that going.
Delegate Rasul.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Delegate Sam Rasul representing the 38th House District in Roanoke.
Delegate Austin.
Good morning to the citizens. Harry Austin, I represent the 37th House District.
Delegate Moorfield.
Moorfield, are you there?
Delegate Moorfield is muted right now. Let me see if we can't get him unmuted. It looks like there was a problem. He sent me a text.
Okay.
It doesn't look like there's a problem there.
Okay, well, there are other legislators that are going to join, so there will be lots of people here, and we have a lot of our good staff online as well. So we're paying attention to everything we hear. I'm going to start out with a few simple ground rules that will help our hearing today go smoothly, and at the same time give everybody an opportunity to be heard in a reasonable amount of time. First, when you signed up to speak, you received an email with a link for the hearing. As of this morning, the House Appropriations and Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee websites were updated to include a listing of each speaker who signed up to speak along with a number. The number indicates the order in which you will speak. Staff will, from time to time, call out these numbers along with the name from the sign-up list to give you an idea how far we are down the list. If you are not present at your time to speak for whatever reason, then you will be allowed to speak at the end if you are present in the virtual meeting room. As we get closer to your number, staff will move you from the waiting room into the actual meeting room so that you can speak. However, please do not speak until your name is called. Remember to unmute yourself as your name is called to minimize transition time. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. That way we can all be heard in a reasonable amount of time and no one will be left out. We will stay in the meeting until the last speaker that is signed up has had the opportunity to be heard. Please remember, near the end of your 3 minutes, a timer will sound. Please wrap up your comments at that time. After you have completed speaking, staff will move you back into the waiting area where you will continue to watch the hearing or leave altogether. Finally, to hear as many issues as possible and to be respectful of the time of others in the audience, we ask that you avoid duplication while testifying. I will tell you from years of experience that repeating the same testimony on the same issue can be counterproductive. If there are several people speaking from the same group, we encourage you to have one spokesperson. You can always mention how many other members of your group are listening to show your group's support for your calls, but not only does that save time for everyone, but it's much more effective when making your case. That's pretty much it. We're glad you're here, and I hope that each of you will learn something new today. Each of us will learn something new today, something that we hadn't thought about before. That's a big reason why we're here. First, I'm going to call Stephen Nape. Mr. Nape, you have an additional 2 minutes for a total of 5 minutes to accommodate your request. Mr. Nape.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. 1 in 30 Virginians are living with a disability from a traumatic brain injury. That's over 300,000 Virginians. According to the CDC, the leading causes of TBI include falls, motor vehicle crashes, direct head trauma, and assaults. Unfortunately, these accidents are common occurrences. They can affect anyone at any time. Brain injuries do not discriminate by race, gender, ethnicity, employment status, socioeconomic status, or anything else. They can affect us all, and they are devastating. Living with a brain injury brings poor health outcomes, decreased lifespan, lower quality of life, and additional health complications. I'm speaking to you as one of the 30 Virginians living with a traumatic brain injury. My disabling brain injury occurred on a sunny Sunday morning. I was traveling to my office on Interstate 81 when I felt my car run over something. I pulled over to inspect for damage and crouched down by the front passenger side tire. An 18-wheeler ran off the road, hit my car, and pinned me between my car and the guardrail. My ribs were on one side of the guardrail, held tightly by my car. The rest of my body was twisted around the other side. I had many orthopedic injuries, but my brain injury was the result of my head violently shaking. I'm not sure how and why I survived the accident. My doctors were not sure, but I did, and I feel fortunate. Nearly 8 years later, I've come to accept that I'll never work again. I've come to accept my compromised memory, my weakened executive function, my auditory visual processing deficits, flat personality, PTSD, and facial twitches. Some days are harder than others, but I live with them. It's a day-to-day thing. I'm also fortunate to have had health insurance that provided support for my therapy. It eventually was determined that further improvement, if any, would be too small to justify the cost, so I was discharged to fend for myself. I was among the fortunate to receive services from Brain Injury Solutions in Roanoke, Virginia. They helped me climb out of a very dark place. They helped me to connect to resources in my community. They offered opportunities to participate in therapeutic activities and social activities. They supported me through vision therapy, which allowed me to drive again. In short, they helped me when no one else would. I'm no longer in a dark place, and I have them to thank, and I have a more hopeful future. Many of those living with brain injuries are not as fortunate. Many injuries are worse than mine. Many have limited access or no access to insurance. Many have transportation issues, and many simply do not have the help to navigate a very complicated road to recovery. So why did I survive my accident? I believe I survived in part to speak on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. I say that both figuratively and literally. The Alliance of Brain Injury Service Providers has submitted a budget request that includes funding to retain staff, the very staff that helped me and the staff throughout Virginia that help others. When working with people with brain injuries, it's difficult to develop the necessary relationships between provider and client. It takes time. Everything takes longer with a brain injury. It's hard for the client. And given the unique nature of every brain injury, it can also be difficult for providers to fully understand the needs of individuals. Unfortunately, due to the lack of competitive pay, state injury providers have seen a 30% turnover in staff. This is unacceptable and inefficient. Why spend time and money to rehire and retrain a third of your staff when you could better spend funds directly supporting clients? Why allow a 6 to 12 month waiting list to develop for services? From my personal experience, I can tell you 6 months seems like an eternity, and many of us don't think we'll survive for another year. I can tell you I certainly didn't. Staff retention is critical to the success of objectives. I hope you'll support the funding request for workforce retention, as it will benefit a great number of people currently living with brain injuries and without a hopeful future. I'll close by saying, please remember me. Please remember those who are not able to speak for themselves. Please remember the brain injury community that needs you so desperately. Do as much as you can. The investment will make lives better. It will make communities stronger. Simply stated, it will make a difference. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this matter. I appreciate it. Thank you.
With that, thank you so much. Before we go to the next person, I want to acknowledge that Delegate Campbell from Waynesboro is joined by phone. Delegate Moorfield, it looks like, from Tazewell County is back online. Senator Obenchain from Rockingham County and Senator Pillion from Washington County are also online. So there's quite an audience right now. And we go to the next person, I guess.
The next person is number 2 is Philip Norman.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. My name is Philip Norman. I'm the Western Regional Manager for Child Care Aware Virginia. We are a statewide nonprofit organization that helps families find quality child care programs. We are a resource and referral agency for families. Secondly, we also help child care providers offer high quality programs, both child care centers and home-based providers. We do that through one-on-one technical support, as well as professional development, both in the virtual and in-person setting. I've been working in childcare and after-school programming for more than 10 years. I started working in parks and recreation and then school-based before and after-school programs. I was also a director of youth development for a YMCA. Currently, I support families, also provide a wide array of support services to childcare providers. Some examples there, I help childcare providers meet the requirements to participate in the childcare subsidy program. I work with centers and home-based providers through a strengthening business practices series of trainings. Childcare is a business, yet there is room for improvement in best business practices that are utilized by childcare programs. Today, I want to talk to you about 2 key policy issues. First, it is really hard in today's job market for childcare programs to recruit and retain staff. The reality is that childcare workers earn very low wages. Current staff, or those who might otherwise enjoy a job working with children, can earn more than just about any other service sector job. When childcare programs can't fully staff their programs, that means they can't fully enroll children to their licensed capacity. Sometimes that means entire classrooms are closed, while at the same time, the program has a waiting list of children whose parents want childcare. Since 2022, there are numerous states that have implemented childcare recruitment and retention policies to allow parents working in licensed childcare programs to access childcare subsidy. The subsidy program is used as a workforce benefit and investment to ensure that programs can be fully staffed. Staffing levels directly impact childcare options for parents, both private paying families and families who have a subsidy and wish to use a local program with that subsidy. Secondly, as of December 1st, nearly 13,000 children were on waiting lists for the childcare subsidy program for the Virginia Preschool Initiative Mixed Delivery Program. The waiting list for subsidy has been in place since July when state funding ran out. Childcare is expensive. Statewide, the average annual price for center-based infant care is over $16,000. The average annual price for an infant in a family day home is over $12,000. Parents need access to childcare so they can work. Employers depend on working parents. Children need access to safe, quality childcare setting that supports their healthy development. Childcare Aware Virginia recommends that the General Assembly invest in both childcare subsidy for working parents and childcare subsidy as a workforce benefit for childcare workers with young children. Both are needed and they're interrelated. We need to clear the childcare subsidy waiting list, but we also need to ensure that programs are fully staffed to serve children with and without a subsidy. So with that said, I thank you for your time today and the opportunity to speak. I also ask that a copy of the Child Care Aware Virginia policy agenda be included in the hearing record for today.
The next speaker is number 3, Aya Ibrahim.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and your continued support in funding DD waivers. I'm Dr. Aya Ibrahim from Botetourt County, and I'm a mother, a caregiver, and someone who's lived through the struggles of waiting for critical support services for a loved one with a developmental disability. I'm here to urge you to support a study on providing core services to individuals on the DD waiver waitlist and respite care for caregivers of those that have the DD waiver. I want to share my story to highlight why this is so important. My 4-year-old daughter, Emily, has Down syndrome. She's an incredible little girl, but her care requires constant attention. Like many families on the DD waiver waitlist, we face delays and frustration in accessing essential services. When my husband was struck by a disabling illness early last year, our family's world was changed in an instant. I became not only Emily's primary caregiver, but also that for my husband, who is our main source of income. The system worked, but only once we were in a massive crisis. I don't want others to have to wait until things become dire, when they're sitting in an emergency room with their immunocompromised child and their husband who's critically ill, wondering how they're going to survive because they don't have any supports. I had to put my child with a disability at risk, going from ER to ER seeking care for my husband because we didn't have anything to help us. If we'd had access to core services earlier, we might not have had to endure such a difficult time. Luckily, she did receive the DD waiver slot later in the year, but it was only after our family was in crisis. As a result, we know the struggle and the fear all too well that many families experience on a daily basis. And that's why, despite already having a waiver slot, I'm here to urge you in the committee to prioritize funding for core services study for those on the DD waiver waitlist. By investing in this study, we can begin to assess the gaps in our system, better understand the needs of families like mine, and create a sustainable plan to ensure that all individuals, regardless of where they are on the waiver waitlist, can access the services they need when they need them. While we're incredibly grateful and relieved that Emily finally got a DD waiver slot, the shift has been overwhelming. I have 3 other children, including a newborn, and the weight of trying to care for all of them while managing Emily's needs as her paid caregiver with no respite has been a strain. This experience is not unique to mine, and without respite care, I'm at risk of burnout and diminishing quality of care that I can provide for all of my children. As a family member with someone with a developmental disability and a board member of the ARC of Virginia, I urge you to support their legislative agenda. Thank you for your time and consideration of considering the needs of families like ours. My daughter's name is Emily, which means my hope, and it's my hope that you will make the investment in core services and respite care for those that need them, so no family has to wait any longer than necessary for the support that they deserve. Thank you so much for your time.
Speaker number 4 is Ethan Long.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you. Happy New Year to all of you. I am Ethan Long, and I represent the VIA Centers for Neurodevelopment, and we are a private special ed day school that serves students with neurodevelopmental disabilities like autism and such. We have about 185 students and families that we serve and school district partners. And today I'm speaking on behalf of not only VIA, but also other private special ed day placement providers, many of whom serve and work with our localities to serve many children and students who have significant needs. And today what I'm asking of you all is to respectfully consider removing proposed language in the budget that sets a 2.5% cap, reimbursement cap, on CSA payments to our localities for private special ed day tuition. One of the biggest challenges that many of our school districts face right now is that we have a number of students who have neurodevelopmental disabilities with specific needs, and they work collectively with families and these local school districts and with private special ed day providers to place these students in these private special ed day schools. So that they can get the education that they need and they can have trained specialists that work with these students. And we've studied this before, and the JLARC has done a number of studies on this. And I want to thank each of you for removing the rate cap in 2023 because folks across both sides of the aisle worked together to make certain that that happened. And one of the challenges with this rate reimbursement cap is that ultimately we as private special ed day providers have to hire the staff and train the staff that are needed to be able to work with these special students to ensure that they can stay in their homes, they can benefit day to day, their families can be included in our communities, and they can learn the skills, and they can continue to have an education that ultimately they deserve and that's mandated by the federal IDEA law. So when we have these caps, what ultimately happens is we as private day providers can't afford, we can't hire the staff that we need. We can't we can't set the rates that we need to in order to be able to pay those staff that oftentimes are doing God's work and that they're really working diligently with the students and helping them to succeed. So with this rate reimbursement cap, now the challenge becomes that ultimately those costs, our rates are our rates, but we're going to have to shift those over to our localities and our local school systems. And ultimately, we'd like to ask you to please remove that language, that proposed language from the budget that you plan to adopt. So I appreciate your listening and many of you who've come to visit us and see our students and meet our families. And I thank you and appreciate your time.
The next speaker is number 5, Sierra Cox.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sierra Cox, and I'm from Galax, Virginia. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of my daughter, Amara, and Brain Injury Solutions. Amara acquired a traumatic brain injury at just 2 months old at the hands of her biological parents. She's been in my care ever since, and our lives will forever be changed and affected by this life-altering injury. More than 15,000 brain injuries are reported in Virginia alone each and every year. Brain injuries, from the least to the most significant, affect the individual's life permanently. For us, a traumatic brain injury looks like the inability to sit independently, the inability to eat without the use of a feeding tube, the inability to talk and communicate effectively, the inability to see. It looks like 3-hour drives to receive medical attention almost every single month. It looks like physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy every single day after school. It looks like constant advocating for appropriate services within the school system with insurance companies and medical supply companies. Our lives are not like those who have never known this type of injury, and they never will be. Among all the bad, we've been blessed with an organization, Brain Injury Solutions, who has been a crucial element in Amara's success. From day one, Brain Injury Solutions has provided funding for equipment, support for myself as a caregiver, and expertise and resources that are pertinent to Amara's success. We've met the most knowledgeable and caring staff over our 5-year journey, but I'm sad to report that we've had to say goodbye to many of them. Unfortunately, due to non-competitive salaries and benefits, the amazing staff that we've met at Brain Injury Solutions cannot be retained. We have personally had to say goodbye to 3 caseworkers already. This has made staying on top of resources and services difficult, causing delays in services that Amara requires. Without their support, I can honestly say that Amara would not be where she is today. We would not be as knowledgeable, and she would not be thriving the way that she is. Today, I'm requesting that you allocate an increase in funds for this amazing organization so that traumatic brain injury survivors, such as my sweet daughter, can continue to receive the appropriate services that they deserve so that they continue to be successful members of our communities. I want to thank you for our time and thank you for supporting Brain Injury Solutions.
The next speaker is number 6, Amanda Adams.
Senator Deeds, it looks like Amanda Adams dropped off, but we'll watch to see if she pops back into the waiting room. So she's back.
Speaker number 7 is Ron Boyd. I don't believe he is present, so we can now move on to speaker number 8, Linda Lawrence.
Good morning. I'm Linda Lawrence, and I'm from Roanoke. I'm the grandmother and caregiver of Alex, my grandson. After 18 years on the waiting list, we were recently awarded the DD waiver. We were overjoyed to hear this. Having this waiver will provide him more opportunities to grow and learn and become an integral part of his community. So we wish to thank you for supporting all of those on the Priority 1 waiting list. But we understand there's a shortage of waiver providers, and it will impact Alex's opportunities and growth. I understand this has been a problem for years. For instance, Alex's current providers are not Medicaid approved for payment. We've been paying these out of pocket, but they can get very expensive. People want high quality service providers who provide services to Alex so that he can have a life like ours. I'm asking you to address the shortage of service providers and take steps to help Virginia attract new providers and help existing providers improve their services. Will you consider how Virginia can attract and support providers with the training and funding as well as the startups? Thank you for this opportunity. To speak. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go back. I see Amanda Adams is back on. So caller number 6, Amanda Adams.
Hello, good morning, members of the Senate and House. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Amanda Adams, and I'm the parent of 2 children who are on the developmental disabilities waiver. I come to you today not just as a concerned parent, but as someone who is struggling to balance the care of my children, working, and being a wife. As many of you know, caring for children with developmental disabilities is a full-time job. It's a job that requires patience, commitment, and most of all, financial resources. Yet, despite the tremendous responsibility that a parent like me shoulders every single day, the pay for providing care under the DD waiver is not competitive enough with the average pay of care workers or nannies. The current pay rates are so low that I cannot afford to hire anyone to care for my children. Virginia's minimum wage is currently $12.41 per hour. A personal care attendant is getting $13.61 an hour. The pay rate for a personal care attendant isn't even the average of what a child care or nanny worker gets paid in Virginia. With that being said, I have interviewed numerous people to care for my children, and because of the pay rate not being competitive enough, they cannot take the position. This leaves me sacrificing my own financial stability to provide proper care or cutting corners for my children's well-being. Neither option is acceptable and neither is sustainable. I ask you to consider that in Virginia, we are asking parents like myself to juggle the care for our children who may require round-the-clock attention with the demands of work, family, and other obligations. And yet the compensation for this work doesn't reflect the value and the importance of the role that we play in ensuring our children can live fulfilling lives. Personal care attendants deserve and should be paid for the importance of caring for our most vulnerable children. And yet we are often treated as though the care we provide is less important. In closing, I urge you to allocate the necessary funds to increase the DD waiver for caregivers. I ask that you prioritize the care of our most vulnerable children. Increasing the pay for caregivers under the DD waiver is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It is not just about fair compensation, it's about giving parents like me support we need to ensure that our children have the opportunities they deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration.
The next speaker, number 9, Alex Gibson, I don't believe is here, nor is number 10, Martin Mash. So we'll move to speaker number 11, Stephen Simon.
I'm Stephen Simon, and I represent Western Virginia Emergency Medical Services Council and serving as the executive director. I'm commenting on the budget bill, item 272 specifically. Western Virginia Emergency Medical Services Council takes this opportunity to provide comments against the proposed language to eliminate Emergency Medical Service Council boundaries and to keep the current language from January 1, 2008 as part of the upcoming proposed budget. House Bill 1600, Section 272E has language that is stricken from the governor's proposed budget, and Western Virginia EMS Council, with the support of our 18 local governments, does not support this budget change. We recognize changes need to be made to the Office of EMS. Virginia Department of Health based on their years of financial mismanagement. However, it should not negatively impact on the current services that Western Virginia EMS Council provides to support the 4th, 5th, and 12th planning districts of Western Virginia. The proposed stricken language in Section 272, line E states, notwithstanding any other provision of law or regulation, the Board of Health shall not modify the geographic or designated service areas of designated regional emergency medical service councils in effect on January 1, 2008. That is what is being proposed to be stricken. Striking this language allows the Virginia Department of Health to eliminate EMS councils, including Western Virginia EMS Council, without safeguarding the well-being of the citizens of the Commonwealth. The basis for this change is from a consultant's report, the Fitch Associates, that was done earlier this year, that the Virginia Department of Health paid an excessive amount for, which was discredited and disqualified by the governor's own Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council in a unanimous motion at their last meeting on November 15th, 2024. The purpose of the State Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board is to advise the State Board of Health concerning the administration of the statewide emergency medical care system and emergency medical services vehicles maintain and operate and provide transportation to persons requiring emergency medical treatment and reviewing and making recommendations to statewide emergency medical services. That's the purpose of the EMS Advisory Board. They are the group that helps advise on all of these issues. That's cited from the Secretary of the Commonwealth of Virginia's website. The 28-member advisory board represents all the EMS stakeholder groups in the Commonwealth of Virginia, appointed by the governor to be the subject matters expert to ensure Virginia has a high-quality emergency medical service system. The renunciation of the Fitch report by the governor's advisory board, which was the catalyst for striking the current 2008 language, should clearly illustrate that EMS community is not supportive of this proposed language in the budget bill, Section 272. Western Virginia EMS Council encourages a truly independent study from the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission that can provide a fair evaluation and make recommendations for the future. In closing, I entered the fire EMS profession in 1986, serving as a paramedic firefighter, raising to the rank of fire chief in Roanoke County until I retired a few years ago. Since my start in EMS, I and countless other first responders have relied on EMS councils, and especially in the western portion of Virginia, to help us in our career and volunteer agencies. The EMS councils serve a critical role in helping to ensure high-quality EMS services are available to the citizens. Western Virginia EMS Council is a 501c3 nonprofit that will be in existence for 50 years come this July. The board of directors of Western Virginia EMS Council represents the 6 cities and 12 counties and are opposed to this language being removed. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important issue.
The next speaker, number 12, Jeff Grimm, is not in the room. So we'll move to speaker number 13, Jay Langston. Jay Langston.
CJ Langston is online, but he's muted. Mr. Langston, are you there?
Perhaps we can come back to him, Senator, and move to the next speaker.
That's fine.
The next speaker, Matthew Hudgens, is also not in the room, but that's speaker number 15, Keith Perrigan. Keith Perrigan.
Sir. Good morning. I'm Keith Perrigan. I serve the residents of Washington County as superintendent of schools. And today I'm speaking on behalf of the Virginia Association of School Superintendents as their president. I would first like to thank members of the Senate Finance and House Appropriations for their support for funding public education adequately. The recent increases have been game-changing for both teachers and students. I've worked personally with Senator Pillion and Delegates Moorfield and Rasul, and I know that they prioritize public education. We appreciate them and staff members like Tyler who are always available to provide guidance and assistance. We also Appreciate both the General Assembly and the governor's support for K-12 education in their budgets and the support in the governor's most recent proposal, including investments in school construction, EL staffing, and support for schools in implementing the new performance and support framework. We're hopeful that the final budget will include the General Assembly's Joint Education Subcommittee's recent recommendation to further lift the support cap from 24 to 27.5 positions and to add special ed as an at-risk add-on like we have with other items in the budget. VASS would also like to see additional dollars to support school divisions' expansion of their CTE, a career and technical education work-based experience programs to meet the 3E requirements in the new performance and support framework. Funding could include things like positions for work-based learning, teacher specialists, and other important functions for work-based learning. Thank you for your support and consideration of these requests, and we look forward to working with you during this General Assembly session.
The next speaker, number 16, is Mark Frondorf.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm Mark Frondorf, a Page County resident and the Shenandoah Riverkeeper, part of the Potomac Riverkeeper Network, whose mission is to protect the right to clean water for all communities and all those who live and rely upon the Shenandoah and Potomac watersheds for stopping pollution, making drinking water safe, and protecting healthy river habitats, and enhancing the use and enjoyment for everyone. I urge you to consider including 2 additional items into the governor's budget. First, there is no budget for freshwater harmful algal bloom testing for the Virginia Department of Health, and there needs to be one. Second, I urge the General Assembly to continue funding U.S. Geological Survey to continue operating and maintaining water quality monitoring equipment already in place in the Shenandoah watershed. There's a harmful algal bloom testing budget for Virginia's saltwater beaches where tourists and folks of some means can safely swim in Virginia's water, but there is no budget for freshwater rivers and streams in Virginia where thousands of folks swim, fish, and play in their local watering holes. And we really don't need to treat them like second-class citizens and not provide them the same information that beachgoers get to receive. In August 2021, there was a harmful algal bloom advisory issued by the Virginia Department of Health for 52.5 miles on the North Fork of the Shenandoah that ran from Elkton all the way down to Front Royal. And they discovered the presence of anatoxin A and cyanobacteria, which is a toxic witch's brew that can cause skin rashes and gastrointestinal illnesses and can be fatal to dogs, harmful to pets and other animals, including livestock. And they VDH issued advisories to avoid contact with all this. In years 2022, 23, and 24, there were no harmful algal bloom alerts issued, not because none were found, only because no testing occurred. And VDH instead just issued a sort of a generic algal mat advisory that informed people that the algal mats in front of them may contain harmful toxins and suggested that they recreate elsewhere. While I would love to see residents and visitors to the Shenandoah River system warned when harmful algal blooms are present, I truly believe that all Virginians need to know if what they are encountering on their local rivers or streams are toxic. So I would suggest having the freshwater harmful algal bloom testing budget be comparable to the saltwater harmful algal bloom budget, which is approximately $400,000. The second item I urge you to consider including in the governor's budget is an additional $500,000 for the U.S. Geological Survey organization so they can continue to operate and maintain water quality monitoring equipment that they already own and is already in place in the Shenandoah watershed. This equipment was purchased and installed as part of the 3-year study the General Assembly funded to further investigate harmful algal blooms in the Shenandoah River system and over at Lake Anna and other Virginia water bodies suffering from significant harmful algal blooms. It seems silly to have the equipment already in place collecting data and not have proper funding to keep the lights on and the system up and running to get a better idea of what's happening in our Virginia rivers. Thank you very much.
The next speaker, number 17, is Michelle Walmsley.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Walmsley. I'm an Albemarle County resident. I also serve as the Vice President and Chief Advancement Officer of Habitat for Humanity of Greater Charlottesville. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to speak about 2 housing pilot projects. They are budget items number 102M and number 102N. Habitat respectfully requests that the Senate Finance Committee and House Appropriation Committee reject the portion of the governor's budget amendment which proposes to strike these two pilot projects. We ask that you restore both pilots as contained in the budget signed into law last summer. Number 102M is a $5 million pilot project to provide loan funds to help mobile home park residents or nonprofit organizations buy mobile home parks to prevent resident displacement. In recent years, nonprofits have bought 5 mobile home parks to prevent displacement, 1 in Albemarle, 2 in Charlottesville, 1 in Manassas, and 1 in Chesterfield. The 3 in Albemarle and Charlottesville, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Charlottesville was either the purchaser or in partnership to prevent episodes of mass resident displacement. And many of you may know that Southwood, which is currently the largest such redevelopment without displacement in the country, it's also the largest mixed income redevelopment undertaken by any habitat in the US. Many more mobile home parks are sold to large investment groups and residents are displaced or priced out of their homes. This is an epidemic and it's happening across the country. Nonprofits have recently been unsuccessful in attempts to buy mobile home parks in Southwest Virginia, in Fairfax, and in Loudoun counties. This is naturally occurring affordable housing that is fast disappearing in Virginia. This loan fund is sorely needed in every part of the Commonwealth to address this crisis and what may happen to the future of mobile home parks and their residents. Number 102N is a $5 million pilot project to provide funds for down payment assistance for home buyers who earn less than 60% of the area median income. Homeownership is not only very empowering for hardworking low-income families, it also fosters long-term community stability and can be used as a tool for building generational wealth for families. The pilot project will be particularly useful for rural families and families coming out of public housing, which is actually a large segment of the families that we serve here at Habitat. The budget originally called for the guidelines of these 2 pilot projects to be created by December 1st of 2024, so last month. Nonprofit organizations across Virginia expected to be using the funds as soon as this month. We did not expect them to be cut after the date the programs were supposed to start, according to the budget signed into law. Thank you for considering this request and for your support of hardworking Virginia families who aspire to purchase a home or remain safely in their mobile home without fear of being displacement and having the land sold from out from under their home.
The next speaker going back, I believe he's back online, is Jay Langston.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much. I'm speaking to the amendment on the Virginia Business Ready Site Program. The site development is extremely important to us, particularly in my region, which is 12 of the localities in the Shenandoah Valley. We need the sites, obviously, to continue our economic growth and prosperity. And we've been fortunate through a Go Virginia grant to leverage $800,000 into $300 million and nearly 500 jobs. So we are very closely aligned with this amendment and appreciate your consideration of it. And thank you very much.
Next speaker, number 18, is John Weatherspoon.
Good morning. It's good to see many of you again. I want to thank you for the opportunity to make a public comment here today. My name is John Weatherspoon. I'm the CEO of Wall Residences. Our main office is in Floyd, Virginia. Wall Residences is a 100% employee-owned Virginia corporation with over 500 employees who serve individuals with developmental disabilities across the Commonwealth of Virginia through Medicaid waiver. We currently serve over 600 individuals in residential services across Virginia. We also offer community engagement, community coaching, day services, therapeutic consultation, nursing, in-home services, and supported living, providing support to over 1,000 people through the waiver across the state. WAL is a member of the Virginia Network of Private Providers. We're also a member of Virginia Access and the Virginia Sponsored Residential Provider Group. Despite all the General Assembly has done in recent years and the 3% increase in the governor's budget for this July, The administrative burden on agencies through the DOJ settlement has soared, and the increases we have received do not offset the cost of the additional staff needed to operate or our ability to keep up with the pay of competitors from food services and big box stores for our direct support professionals. As an example of some of the administrative burden, Wall Residence has spent over $300,000 this year alone in non-refundable nursing services in order to provide support to people with significant medical needs in our homes. These are nursing services that are not included in any rate model. Rates must increase by more than 3%. We fully support the request that's coming from Virginia Access for increases of approximately 35% for all waiver services, not a select few. And please ensure sponsored residential is always included and never excluded from those increases. It is already Virginia's most affordable residential service. Thank you for your time this morning and for your support.
The next speaker, number 19, is Erica Rogers.
Hi, thank you. My name is Erica Rogers, and I am a single mom to 10 children, 4 of whom have Down syndrome, and I am a paid caregiver. The U.S. is facing a caregiver shortage for those with disabilities and the elderly. In an article from the AARP, the reasons given was low pay, physically demanding responsibilities, and no career advancement. Many families that have a child with disabilities need to leave the workforce in order to care for their child due to the shortage. Currently, the pay for a personal care attendant outside of NOVA is $13.61 an hour, quite frankly, an offensive amount. The current administration saw the need and thankfully made paid parent caregivers a permanent provision within our Medicaid regulations. The issue that I would like to speak on has to do with respite for paid parent caregivers. Last year, DMAS removed the provision to allow paid parent caregivers to receive respite, saying they needed to do a study on the financial impacts. If a child has an outside caregiver, a non-paid parent caregiver, they are given 480 hours a year of respite, so the finances are already accounted for. Paid parent caregivers need this respite desperately. They do not get to clock out at the end of the day. It is a 24/7 job. By being a paid parent caregiver, we have shown there is no one else who can provide this service full time. But that doesn't mean that we can't find someone to watch our child for a few hours, to be able to go on a date with a spouse, or a weekend away once a year to be able to come back refreshed, able to care for our loved ones better. The impact on these families to not be able to get this respite care has a lasting impact, and the actual cost to the Commonwealth increases by increased healthcare cost and the potential for the child to be placed in a nursing facility. I ask that you allow paid parent caregivers to receive respite services. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Going back to a speaker, number 12, Jeff Grimm. Mr. Grimm?
Good morning. How are you doing? My name is Jeff Grimm. I represent the Virginia Association of Volunteer Rescue Squads. And I want to take a few moments to speak in reference to the language that is being deleted with the boundary lines for the EMS councils. I have been involved with emergency medical services for the past 40 years. And I have lived through the EMS councils, the traditional EMS councils, and now the hybrid council with Central Shenandoah EMS. And I have to say that we have gotten more support out of the hybrid council than we ever did the traditional council. But specifically, the boundary lines, the language is being deleted about the boundary lines for the EMS councils. And I would just encourage the legislators to think about this for just 1 minute. We want support closer to the providers. This is a life and death situation. We're dealing with people's lives. With the ever-changing EMS system, it appears that you would want that support system closer to the providers, thus closer to the people that we're answering the calls for. We depend for rural EMS, like my agency, we answer about 170 EMS calls a year. We depend on the EMS Council for training and support, technical support. We depend on the EMS Council specifically for the needs of our providers, making sure that our training is up to date. The drug box exchange, it's going away this spring. Our EMS Council has worked diligently to give us a solution. They're working diligently right now with my agency, along with 6 others, in order to get us a solution for an unfunded mandate from the Office of EMS as far as entering our pre-hospital care reports. This makes it even more valuable to have those EMS councils the way they were, the way they are currently now. I would just highly encourage the legislature to leave it alone. The changes that need to be made, in my opinion, and I'm not speaking on behalf of VAVRS when I say this. A lot of people want to fix a problem, and they go to another issue and try to fix it that way. The EMS councils are not the problem with EMS. In fact, Central Shenandoah EMS for my region has been a huge fix for the EMS problem. It has brought the Office of EMS closer to the provider. But I appreciate your time, and I hope you will consider leaving the EMS councils exactly the way they are now and figure out a funding solution for them the way they exist. Thank you.
That is all that's all the speakers that we have, Senator, delegates. And I don't believe anybody is in the room waiting that has not already spoken.
Okay, I want to thank everybody that's participated. I want to remind you that you can continue to submit written comments through the General Assembly websites, through the committee website. So thank everybody for participating. I want to thank all the legislators who were participated as well. Thank you.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.